Kang Daeho walked through the massive doors of Galactic Court Station Omega-7. His footsteps echoed in the huge hallway. Around him, hundreds of alien beings moved toward the main courtroom. Each one carried weapons. Some had energy swords that glowed bright blue. Others had plasma rifles strapped to their backs. The insect-like Quillen clicked their natural blade arms together. The rock-like Vorthak had crystal spears that hummed with power. Daeho carried nothing. His hands were empty. His belt had no weapons. He wore a simple black suit that humans used for important meetings. Nothing more. A group of tall, gray aliens stopped walking. They stared at him. One pointed a long finger at the human. "Where are his weapons?" it asked in a voice that sounded like wind through metal. "Impossible," said another alien. "This one looked like a giant spider with too many eyes. All species must carry weapons in the court. It is the law. It has been the law for 1,000 years." More aliens began to notice. A crowd formed around Daeho. He kept walking forward, calm and quiet. The aliens followed him, whispering in their strange languages. Some sounded angry, others sounded confused. A few sounded scared. Near the courtroom entrance, Ambassador Lee Soo-jin waited for him. She was a middle-aged human woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She wore the blue uniform of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps. Like Daeho, she carried no weapons. "Ambassador." "Lee," said a voice behind her. She turned to see High Judge Vexathala approaching. The judge was 12 feet tall with skin like purple metal. 6 arms grew from her body. Each arm held a different ceremonial weapon. "I must ask again, why do the humans break our most sacred law?" Lee Soo-jin smiled. "We do not break the law, Your Honor. We follow a special exception." "An exception that makes no sense," said another voice. Commander Zeth Cole of the Hegemony Defense Force stepped forward. He was covered in thick armor that looked like beetle shells. 2 curved swords hung from his sides. "Every species knows that weapons show respect in court. They show that we take the law seriously. They show that we are ready to defend our honor." "Perhaps," said Lee Soo-jin. "But humans earned the right to enter courts without weapons. We earned it through demonstration." "What demonstration?" asked Judge Vexathala. Lee Soo-jin looked at the crowd of aliens that had gathered. "You will understand soon enough." The courtroom. Doors opened. The crowd moved inside. The room was enormous. It could hold 1,000 beings. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. Floating platforms held different species in the air. Some aliens needed water to breathe. Others needed different gases. The court was built to serve everyone. Daeho walked to the human section. He sat down in a simple chair. Around him, every other being checked their weapons one more time. The Krex warriors touched their lightning spears. The floating Nethys made sure their poison darts were ready. Even the peaceful-looking Yulani had small energy shields on their arms. Judge Vexathala took her place at the center of the court. Her 6 arms spread wide. Each weapon caught the light. "We are here today to decide the border dispute between the Krex Empire, the Yulani Federation, and the Nethys Cloud Fleets. This matter has caused 3 wars in the past 50 years. Today we will find peace." The Krex representative stood up. His name was War Leader Thakmor. He was 8 feet tall with red skin and horns like a bull. His weapon was a spear that shot lightning. "The mining rights belong to the Krex Empire. We claimed that system first. We bled for it. We died for it." "You stole it," said the Yulani representative. Her name was Peace Singer Melandra. She looked like a tall, thin human, but with blue skin and 4 arms. Her weapons were curved blades that could cut through metal. Our people lived in that system for hundreds of years before you arrived. The Nethys representative floated higher in the air. It was hard to see them clearly because they were made of gas and energy. When they spoke, it sounded like wind and thunder. Both claims are false. The system belongs to no one. It should remain free for all to use. War Leader Thakmor's eyes turned bright red. Free? Nothing is free in this galaxy. The strong take what they need. The weak serve or die. Peace Singer Melandra stood up quickly. Her 4 arms reached for her weapons. Are you calling the Yulani weak? The Nethys representative began to glow brighter. Energy crackled around them. Perhaps it is time to show who is truly strong. All around the courtroom, aliens began to move. Hands went to weapons. The air filled with the sound of metal and energy. Judge Vexathala raised her 6 arms, but even she looked worried. Order, she called. We are in court. This is a place of law, not war. But War Leader Thakmor was not listening. His spear began to charge with electricity. The Krex Empire has heard enough words. Words are for the weak. Peace Singer Melandra drew one of her curved blades. The metal sang as it cut through the air. Then let us speak in a language you understand. The Nethys representative grew twice as large. Wind began to spin around them. Violence serves all our purposes. Judge Vexathala looked around the room. Hundreds of aliens were ready to fight. Weapons were charging, blades were drawn. In seconds, the greatest court in the galaxy would become a battlefield. Then Deho stood up. He did not reach for a weapon. He had no weapon to reach for. He simply stood and looked at the 3 angry representatives. When he spoke, his voice was not loud. It was not angry. It was calm and quiet. Please, he said. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. War Leader. Thakmor stopped moving. His spear powered down. Peace. Singer Melandra's blade froze halfway out of its holder. The Nethys representative shrank back to normal size. Every alien in the courtroom turned to look at the human. Hundreds of weapons lowered. The sound of charging energy stopped. The room became completely silent. Daiho sat back down. Judge Vexathala stared at him. Her 6 arms trembled slightly. How? She whispered. Ambassador Li Su-jin smiled from her seat. She had seen this before. This was why humans were allowed to enter galactic courts without weapons. This was why every species in the galaxy had agreed to the special exception. This was why humans were more dangerous without weapons than with them. 50 years ago, Park Min-ho was 23 years old and very nervous. He stood outside the same courtroom where Deho would one day say a single word and stop a war. But back then, the room looked different. The walls were darker. The weapons were bigger. The aliens were more angry. Min-ho touched the combat knife on his belt. All humans had to carry weapons in galactic courts. It was the law. No exceptions. The knife felt heavy and strange. Humans had not carried weapons for hundreds of years on Earth. They had learned better ways to solve problems. Remember, said Ambassador Choi Hai-wan, she was Min-ho's boss and teacher. Do not speak unless someone asks you a question. Do not touch your weapon unless someone attacks you. Most important of all, do not show fear. These aliens can smell fear like animals smell blood. Min-ho nodded. What if something goes wrong? Choi Hee-won looked at the huge doors of the courtroom. Then we learn how much trouble humans can cause when they try to be helpful. They walked inside. The courtroom was full of angry aliens. The Krex Empire was on trial. They had attacked 3 different species in 1 month. They had stolen planets. They had killed millions of beings. The galaxy wanted justice. The Krex warriors sat on one side of the room. They were huge and red with horns and teeth like sharks. Each one carried weapons that could destroy a building. Their leader was War Chief Grak Thul. He was twice as big as the others. His weapon was a war hammer that could crack moons. On the other side sat the species that the Krex had hurt. The peaceful Yulani had tears in their 4 eyes. The floating Nethys flickered with sadness. The rock-like Vorthak made grinding sounds of pain. Behind them sat families who had lost children, beings who had lost homes, whole species who had lost planets. Judge Zarveth presided over the court. He was 15 feet tall with skin like black metal. 8 arms held different weapons. His voice could shatter stone. War Chief Grak Thul, you stand accused of genocide. How do you answer? War Chief Grak Thul stood up. When he moved, the floor shook. The Krex Empire answers to no one. We take what we want. We kill who we must. This is the way of strength. Then, you admit your crimes? Asked Judge Zarveth. Crime? Grak Thul laughed. The sound was like rocks falling down a mountain. The strong eating the weak is not crime. It is nature. A Yulani mother stood up. Her child had died when the Krex destroyed her planet. You murdered innocents, children who never hurt anyone. Grak Thul turned to look at her. His eyes were like red fire. Your children were weak. Weakness deserves death. The Yulani mother screamed. She pulled out a curved blade and ran toward the Krex leader. Other aliens jumped up. Some tried to stop her. Others wanted to help her. The room exploded into chaos. Minho watched in horror as the greatest court in the galaxy became a battlefield. Energy weapons fired. Metal blades clashed. Aliens roared and screamed. The air filled with smoke and blood. War Chief Grak Thul swung his moon-cracking hammer. He hit 3 aliens at once. They flew across the room and did not get up. This is what happens when the weak challenge the strong. Judge Zarveth tried to restore order. His 8 weapons moved like a metal storm. But there were too many fighters. Too much anger. Too much pain. Minho saw a Krex warrior grab a young Yulani. The alien child was maybe 10 years old. The warrior raised his lightning spear. He was going to kill the child just for fun. Minho moved without thinking. He ran across the room. His combat knife was in his hand, but he was too far away. The Krex warrior saw him coming and laughed. Another weak human wants to die today. The warrior threw Minho against a wall. The human's knife flew out of his hand. It slid across the floor and disappeared under a pile of debris. Minho was now completely unarmed in a room full of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. The Krex warrior turned back to the Yulani child. His spear began to charge with electricity. Now you die, little one. Minho looked around the room. He saw a piece of broken metal, a chair with a twisted leg, a ceremonial banner that hung from the ceiling. His mind began to work in ways that other species could not understand. He grabbed the broken metal. It was sharp on one end and heavy on the other. He threw it like a spear. It hit the Krex warrior in the shoulder. The warrior spun around, angry, but not hurt. You dare attack me with trash? Minho picked up the twisted chair leg. It was made of dense alien wood that was harder than steel. He swung it like a club. The warrior blocked it with his spear, but the impact made him step back. Impossible. You have no weapon. Wrong, said Minho. He picked up another piece of debris. I have everything. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. Minho used the broken courtroom itself as his arsenal. A piece of the judge's bench became a shield. A ceremonial chain became a whip. Even the air became a weapon as Minho created pressure, waves by clapping his hands in a specific pattern. The Krex warrior was bigger. He was stronger. His weapon could kill 100 humans. But Minho was faster. He was smarter. Most important of all, he understood something the warrior did not. Everything is a weapon if you know how to use it. Minho grabbed the ceremonial banner and pulled. The heavy metal pole that held it fell from the ceiling. The human caught it and spun it like a staff. One end hit the warrior's spear hand. The weapon flew away. The other end hit the warrior's knee. The giant alien fell down. Minho put the sharp end of the pole against the warrior's throat. The child lives. The warrior looked into the human's eyes. What he saw there made him more afraid than any weapon ever had. This small, weak being had just defeated him using nothing but broken furniture and intelligence. What? What are you? The warrior whispered. Minho helped the Yulani child stand up. I am human. We do not need weapons to be dangerous. Around the room, other fights were stopping. Aliens stared at the young human who had just defeated a Krex warrior using debris and physics. They began to understand something that would change. Galactic law forever. Judge Zarveth looked at Minho with new eyes. Human, you have just shown us something terrible and wonderful. Ambassador Choi Hyewan stepped forward. She was not surprised by what her student had done. This was what humans could do when they stopped trying to be like other species. Your Honor, she said, perhaps now you understand why giving humans weapons is not making them more dangerous. It is limiting how dangerous they can be. High Judge Vexithala called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. Representatives from every major species gathered in the great chamber beneath the courthouse. The room had no windows. The walls were thick metal that could stop the most. Powerful weapons. This was where the galaxy's leaders came to discuss their greatest fears. We have a problem, said High Judge Vexithala. Her 6 arms moved nervously. The humans have shown us something that changes everything we know about warfare. Commander Zethkol of the Hegemony Defense Force stood up. His beetle-like armor made clicking sounds. One human defeated a Krex warrior. So what? Krex warriors are strong but not smart. Any species with good training could do the same. You were not there, said Judge Zarveth. His 8 arms held different weapons, but his hands were shaking. This was not about training. This human had no weapon. He used broken furniture and empty air. He turned the courtroom itself into an arsenal. Admiral Kethvor of the Star Fleet leaned forward. She was a tall, blue alien with 4 eyes that could see in many different ways. Explain exactly what you saw. Judge Zarveth closed his 8 eyes. When he opened them, his voice was quiet. The human looked at a broken room and saw 1,000 weapons. He looked at a Krex warrior and saw weak points that we cannot even detect. Worst of all, he did it without thinking. It was natural to him, like breathing. Impossible, said Commander Zethkol. No species is that adaptable. We need to study them, said Chief Scientist Mordak. She was a spider-like being with 12 legs and a brain the size of a small moon. We need to understand what makes humans different. Dr. Kim Tae-sung was brought to the chamber 3 days later. He was a human scientist who studied alien biology. He looked very small compared to the huge aliens around him, but he did not look afraid. Dr. Kim, said High Judge Vexithala, We need you to explain your species to us. Kim Tae-sung nodded. What would you like to know? How did that human in the courtroom defeat a Krex warrior using only debris? Kim smiled. That is the wrong question. The right question is, why are you surprised? Chief Scientist Mordak's 12 legs clicked against the floor. Explain. Kim looked around the room. He saw aliens who had evolved as hunters, others who had evolved as builders, some who had evolved as soldiers. All of them had developed one main strength and used technology to cover their weaknesses. Every species here evolved to fill a specific role on their home planet, Kim said. You became very good at one thing. Humans are different. We evolved to be the worst species on our planet. The worst? Asked Admiral Kethvor. We were not the strongest. Lions and bears were stronger. We were not the fastest. Cheetahs and horses were faster. We were not the best climbers or swimmers or flyers. We had no natural weapons, no thick skin, no poison, no armor. Commander Zethkol laughed. Then how did you survive? Kim picked up a metal cup from the table. Because we learned to do this. He threw the cup at the wall. It made a loud noise and fell to the floor. Every other species on Earth had one way to hunt, one way to fight, one way to survive. We learned to use everything. A cup is not a weapon, said Chief Scientist Mordak. Everything is a weapon, said Kim. That cup could blind an enemy if thrown at their eyes. It could break bones if swung at the right angle. It could carry poison or acid. It could be melted down and reformed into a blade. It could be used to dig a trap or build a wall or signal for help. The aliens looked at the simple metal cup on the floor. They were beginning to understand something that frightened them. Kim continued. Humans are persistence hunters. We do not kill our prey quickly like lions. We follow them until they are too tired to run. We track them until they make mistakes. We adapt to every trick they use to escape us. We never give up. That explains hunting, said Judge Zarveth. It does not explain warfare. Kim smiled again, but this time the smile was not friendly. What do you think war is? Captain Yoon Jae-min was brought to the chamber next. He was a human military officer who had studied alien combat for many years. He wore a simple uniform with no weapons. Captain Yoon, said High Judge Vexathala, we need to understand human military thinking. Yoon nodded. What specific aspect concerns you? How do humans approach warfare? Yoon thought for a moment. Every species here fights to win battles. Humans fight to win wars. What is the difference? Asked Commander Zethkol. A battle is one fight. A war is every fight that comes after. When a Krex warrior enters combat, he thinks about defeating his enemy today. When a human enters combat, we think about making sure that enemy can never threaten us again. Admiral Kethvor's 4 eyes focused on Yoon. You mean you always fight to kill? No, said Yoon. We fight to end fighting. Sometimes that means killing. Sometimes it means breaking the enemy's weapons. Sometimes it means destroying their ability to make more weapons. Sometimes it means changing their mind about wanting to fight at all. The human in the courtroom did not kill the Krex warrior, said Judge Zarveth. Exactly, said Yoon. He did something worse. He made that warrior afraid. Fear lasts longer than pain. That warrior will think about what happened every time he sees a human. He will remember that a small, unarmed being defeated him using garbage and intelligence. That memory will make him weak. Chief Scientist Mordak clicked her legs nervously. You are saying that humans wage psychological warfare naturally? We wage every kind of warfare naturally, said Yoon. Physical, psychological, economic, social, technological. We use whatever works. We adapt to whatever our enemy does. Most importantly, we never fight the same way twice. The room became very quiet. The alien leaders began to understand why the human in the courtroom had been so dangerous. It was not just that he had won a fight. It was that he had won in a way that no one expected or could prepare for. What would happen? Asked High Judge Vexthala slowly, if we gave humans access to our most advanced weapons? Dr. Kim and Captain Yoon looked at each other. They both smiled. You would regret it, said Kim. Very quickly, added Yoon. Commander Zethkol stood up. His armor clinked as he moved. Are you threatening us? No, said Kim. We are explaining why the human in your courtroom was more dangerous without a weapon than he would have been with one. A weapon has limitations, said Yoon. It can only be used in certain ways. It can run out of power or break or be taken away. But human adaptability has no limitations. We can turn anything into a weapon. We can find weaknesses that you did not know existed. We can think of solutions that you never imagined. High Judge Vexithala's 6 arms moved in complex patterns. It was a sign of deep thought among her species. What are you asking for? Nothing, said Kim. We came to this galaxy to make friends, not enemies. But, added Yoon, perhaps it would be better if humans were not required to carry weapons in your courts. Why? Asked Admiral Kethvor. Kim picked up the metal cup from the floor. Because when we carry weapons, we limit ourselves to thinking like you do. When we do not carry weapons, we think like humans. The alien leaders looked at each other. They were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that requiring weapons in court made everyone equally dangerous. Instead, they had been making humans less dangerous than they naturally were. We need to vote on this, said High Judge Vexithala. The vote was unanimous. Back in the present-day courtroom, the silence after Daho's single word stretched on. War leader Thakmor still held his lightning spear, but it was no longer charging. Peace singer Melandra's blade was only halfway drawn. The Nethys representative floated in the air, smaller and dimmer than before. Prosecutor Bom Su-ah stood up slowly. She was a human woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back tight. She wore the red robes of a galactic prosecutor. Like all humans in the court, she carried no weapons. Your Honor, she said to Judge Vexithala, perhaps this is a good time to explain to our guest why humans are exempt from carrying weapons in galactic courts. Judge Vexithala nodded with all 6 of her arms. Please proceed, Prosecutor Bom. Bom Su-ah walked to the center of the courtroom. Every alien eye followed her. She moved with calm confidence, like someone who knew exactly what they were doing. 50 years ago, she began, the Galactic Council made a decision that changed how we handle justice in this galaxy. They created what is known as the human exception. This exception allows humans to enter any galactic court without weapons. War leader. Thakmor growled. Why should humans get special treatment? Are they too weak to carry proper weapons? Bom Su-ah smiled. I will let you decide that for yourself. Let me tell you about the incident of the 17 protocols. The courtroom became very quiet. Even the aliens who did not know this story could tell it was important. 20 years ago, Bom continued, 3 species went to war over a star system rich in rare metals. The Gorvak Empire, The Threshen Confederacy and the United Clans of Yethra fought for 5 years. Millions died. Planets were destroyed. Children grew up never knowing peace. Peace, singer Melandra put her blade back in its holder. I remember that war. It nearly destroyed the galactic economy. The Galactic Council tried everything, said Baum. They sent armies to separate the fighting forces. They imposed trade sanctions. They offered to buy the disputed system for 3 times its value. Nothing worked. The 3 species were determined to fight until only one remained. Admiral Kethvor, who was watching from the gallery, nodded slowly. She had been young during that war, but she remembered the fear that it would spread to other systems. Finally, Baum continued, the Council decided to try something new. They sent one human mediator to the war zone. His name was Oh Hyun Woo. He carried no weapons. He brought no army. He had only words and an understanding of how minds work. Commander Zeth Cole leaned forward in his seat. One human stopped a 3-way war? Not stopped, said Baum. Ended. Forever. She began to pace, back and forth as she spoke. Oh Hyun Woo did not try to make peace between the 3 species. Instead, he studied each one carefully. He learned their languages, their customs, their fears, and their desires. Then he spoke to each species separately. What did he say? Asked the Nethys representative. Bomsua's smile became dangerous. To the Gorvak Empire, he pointed out that their warrior culture required them to fight honorable enemies. He then provided detailed evidence that the other 2 species were using dishonorable tactics. According to Gorvak law, fighting such enemies would bring shame to their ancestors. War leader Thakmor shifted uncomfortably. The Krex had a similar warrior code. To the Threshen Confederacy, Baum continued, he showed economic projections, proving that the cost of the war would exceed the value of the disputed system by a factor of 10. The Threshen were traders above all else. They could not justify a losing investment. Several alien merchants in the gallery began whispering. They understood this logic perfectly. To the United Clans of Yethra, Baum said, he presented genealogical research showing that the original claim to the system had been made by a clan that was now extinct. According to Yethra tradition, the claim died with the clan. Judge Zarveth, who was also watching from the gallery, made a grinding sound of amazement. He used each species' own laws and customs against them. Not against them, corrected Baum. For them. Oh Hyun-woo found a way for each species to withdraw from the war while maintaining their honor and achieving their true goals. What were their true goals? Asked peace singer Melandra. The Gorvak wanted to prove their strength. Oh Hyun-woo arranged for them to become the official protectors of 3 peaceful systems that were threatened by pirates. The Threshen wanted profit. He negotiated exclusive trading rights to rare goods from those same systems. The Yethra wanted to honor their ancestors. He helped them establish memorial colonies on uninhabited worlds. The courtroom was completely silent. Every alien was trying to understand how one human had solved a problem that had killed millions. But that is not the frightening part, said Bam Sua. What? Asked several aliens at once. Oh Hyun-woo accomplished all of this in 17 separate meetings over the course of 1 month. Each meeting followed a different galactic protocol for negotiation. He mastered all 17 protocols perfectly, then used them in combinations that no one had ever attempted before. Dr. Kim Tae-sung, who was now an old man watching from the gallery, smiled with pride. That had been his student. The truly terrifying part, Baum continued, was that Oh Hyunwoo had never studied galactic law before that mission. He learned everything he needed to know during the flight to the war zone. It took him 6 days. War Leader Thakmore's red eyes went wide. Impossible. Human. Learning ability is different from yours, said Baum. We evolved to adapt to any environment, solve any problem, overcome any obstacle. When we decide to understand something, we understand it completely. She walked back to the center of the room. After the war ended, the 3 species asked the Galactic Council a simple question. What would happen if humans ever decided to conquer the galaxy? The question hung in the air like a physical weight. The Council studied this possibility for 2 years, Baum said. Their conclusion was unanimous. If humans ever chose to become conquerors, no force in the galaxy could stop them. Not because we are stronger or have better weapons, but because we think differently. Defense Counsel Lim Yoon-ji stood up. She was a young human woman, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Prosecutor Baum, are you suggesting that humans are a threat to galactic peace? Baum Sua shook her head. No, Counsel Lim. I am explaining why humans are the greatest protectors of galactic peace. How so? Because we choose to be. Every day, every human in the galaxy makes a choice. We could use our abilities to conquer and destroy. Instead, we use them to build and protect. We could wage war in ways that no species could defend against. Instead, we wage peace in ways that no species can resist. Judge Vexathala spoke quietly. This is why we created the human exception, not because humans are too weak to carry weapons, but because they are too dangerous to need them. Baum Sua nodded. When humans carry weapons, we think like other species. We focus on the tools instead of the problem. When we do not carry weapons, we think like humans. We see solutions that others cannot imagine. She looked directly at the 3 representatives who had been ready to fight. War Leader Thakmore, Peace Singer Melandra, Honored Nethys, you came here today ready for battle. You brought your weapons and your anger and your ancient grudges. But one human said one word, and you stopped. Why? Asked Peace Singer Melandra. Because, said Baum Sua, somewhere in your minds, you know what humans are capable of. You know that if we wanted to destroy you, we would find a way. You also know that we do not want to destroy you. We want to help you find a better path. War Leader. Thakmore lowered his lightning spear completely. What path? Defense Counsel Lim Yoon-ji smiled. That, War Leader, is what we are here to discover. Defense Counsel Lim Yoon-ji walked to the center of the courtroom. She moved slowly, with purpose, like someone who had all the time in the universe. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the huge room. War Leader Thakmore, she said, you believe that strength comes from taking what you want by force. Is that correct? The huge red alien nodded. The strong survive. The weak serve or die. This is the way of nature. Peace Singer Melandra, Lim continued. You believe that strength comes from protecting what you love through superior weapons and defensive positions. Is that correct? The blue-skinned alien with 4 arms nodded. We fight only to defend our people and our way of life. Honored Nethys, Lim said to the floating gas being. You believe that strength comes from remaining, free and independent, answering to no one. Is that correct? The Nethys representative flickered with agreement. Freedom is the highest virtue. We will not be bound by the laws of solid beings. Lim Yunji smiled. You are all correct, and you are all wrong. The three representatives looked, confused. Around the courtroom, hundreds of aliens leaned forward to hear what the human would say next. You are correct that strength is important, Lim explained. You are wrong about what strength means. She walked over to a large display screen that showed a map of the disputed star system. 3 different colors marked the areas that each species claimed. The colors overlapped in several places, creating a complex pattern that hurt to look at. For 50 years, you have fought over this system, Lim said. 3 wars, millions of deaths, countless resources wasted. And what have you gained? We have gained nothing yet, growled War Leader Thakmor. But we will not surrender what is ours. What is yours? Asked Lim. She touched the display screen. The 3 colors disappeared, leaving only the natural map of the star system. Show me. War Leader Thakmor pointed at the screen. The 4th planet has the richest metal deposits. It belongs to the Krex Empire because we found it first. Peace Singer Melandra shook her head. Our people lived on the moons of that planet. For 300 years before the Krex arrived, the mining rights belonged to us. The Nethys representative grew brighter. Both claims are invalid. The system lies in free space. No one may own what belongs to all. Lim Yunji nodded slowly. So the Krex want the metals to build weapons. The Yulani want the metals to build defenses. The Nethys want the metals to, remain unmined so that space stays free. Yes, said all 3 representatives at the same time. Then you are fighting over something that none of you actually want. The courtroom became very quiet. Every alien was trying to understand what the big human meant. Lim touched the screen again. New information appeared. Charts and graphs and data streams that showed exactly what was in the disputed system. War Leader Thakmor, she said. Look at this data. What do you see? The Krex leader studied the screen. His red eyes moved across the numbers. I see metal deposits, very rich ones. Look deeper, said Lim. What kind of metals? Thakmor looked more carefully. Iron, titanium, some rare elements. He paused. Wait, these are not weapon-grade materials. Correct, said Lim. The metals in this system are perfect for building tools, machines, and infrastructure. They are completely wrong for building the kind of weapons that the Krex Empire prefers. She turned to Peace Singer Melandra. What do you see? The Yulani representative studied the data with her 4 eyes. These metals they are exactly what we need to build our new colony ships, the ones designed to carry our people to safer systems. So you do not need these metals to build defenses, said Lim. You need them to build homes. Finally, she turned to the Nethys representative. What do you see? The gas being flickered as it processed the information. The mining of these metals would not harm the space environment. The process would actually improve conditions for energy-based life forms like my people. Lim Yunji smiled. So the Krex do not want these metals for weapons. The Yulani do not want them for war. The Nethys do not need to keep them unmined. War Leader Thakmor's horns twitched with confusion. Then why have we been fighting? Because, said Lim gently, you have been fighting over the wrong things. She touched the screen again. A new display appeared. It showed 3 different star systems, each one highlighted in a different color. War Leader Thakmor, your people need weapon-grade materials to defend your empire from the pirates that threaten your outer colonies. Is that correct? Yes, said Thakmor slowly. The Kepler 442 system has exactly what you need. Weapon grade. Metals in quantities that would supply your empire for 1,000 years. It is currently unclaimed because the environment is too hostile for most species. But not too hostile for the Krex, said Thakmor with growing excitement. Peace singer Melandra. Lim continued. Your people need safe passage to New Colony. Systems because your population is growing faster than your current worlds can support. Is that correct? Yes, said Melandra. The Ross 128 system has 7 habitable planets and lies along a safe trade route. The Galactic Council has been looking for a peaceful species to help establish way stations for other travelers. Melandra's 4 eyes went wide. 7 planets? We could house our entire species there with room to grow. Honored Nethys, Lim said to the floating representative. Your people need space that is free from the electromagnetic interference caused by solid matter civilizations. Is that correct? Correct, said the Nethys. The void between systems offers exactly what you need. Millions of cubic light-years of empty space that no solid matter species could ever use. The Galactic Council would be happy to officially recognize it as Nethys territory. The 3 representatives stared at the human. Then they stared at each other. Then they stared at the display screen that showed them everything they had ever wanted, freely offered. Why? Asked War Leader Thakmor. Why? Give us these things. Judge Namkiwan stood up. He was an elderly human man with white hair and kind eyes. He had been listening to everything without saying a word. Now he spoke with the authority of someone who had spent 50 years learning how to solve impossible problems. Because, he said, strength is not about taking what you want. Strength is about making sure everyone gets what they need. He walked to the center of the courtroom. War Leader Thakmor, if your people have the weapons they need to defend themselves, will you still want to conquer others? Thakmor thought about this. No. The Krex Empire conquers others because we need their resources to survive. If we have our own resources. Peace singer Melandra, Judge Nam continued, if your people have safe worlds to live on, will you still need to fight for territory? No, said Melandra. We fight only because we must. If we have room to grow in peace. Honored Nethys, said the judge, if you have all the free space you could ever want, will you still need to resist the laws of solid beings? The Nethys representative flickered thoughtfully. If our freedom is guaranteed, we have no reason to oppose order among others. Judge Namkiwan smiled. Then we have found the answer. Not through conquest or defense or resistance, but through understanding what each species truly needs. Cultural attaché. Song Ji-hai stood up from her seat in the gallery. She was a young human woman who studied alien psychology. Your Honor, may I address the question that began this proceeding? Please do, said Judge Nam. Song Ji-hai walked to the center of the room. Many species have asked why humans are allowed to enter galactic courts without weapons. Some think it is because we are weak. Others think it is because we are dangerous. Both are wrong. She looked around the courtroom at all the aliens who had put away their weapons. We are allowed to enter without weapons because we see weapons differently than you do. How so? Asked Judge Vexathala. Every other species sees weapons as tools for victory, Song explained. Humans see weapons as a failure of imagination. War Leader Thakmor growled softly. You think weapons are failures? We think needing to use weapons means we failed to find a better solution, said Song. Today, 3 species came to court ready for war. They brought their best weapons and their strongest warriors. But the real victory came when they put those weapons away and started thinking about what they actually wanted. She gestured to the display screen that still showed the 3-star systems. The Kreks will get better weapons than they ever imagined. The Yulani will get safer homes than they ever hoped for. The Nethys will get more freedom than they ever dreamed of. And no one had to die for it. Peace Singer Melandra's forearms moved in a gesture of amazement. You found a solution where everyone wins. That, said Song Jihai, is what humans do. We find ways to turn conflict into cooperation. We find ways to make enemies into allies. We find ways to solve problems that other species think are impossible. Kang Daeho, who had been silent since he stopped the fighting with a single word, finally spoke again. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the smartest, or the fastest, or the most advanced. But we are the only species that looks at an impossible problem and says, there has to be a better way. Judge Nam Ki-wan raised his hand. By the authority of the Galactic Court, I declare this dispute resolved. The Kreks Empire is granted mining rights to the Kepler 442 system. The Yulani Federation is granted colonization rights to the Ross 128 system.